encouraging stuff, honest conversation. I always put my biblical spin on everything because that's my foundation. My name's Bubba. What is up?
Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? We got a special patriotic episode for you today, so if that sounds good, stick around. You ain't going to want to miss this. We're going back and we're going to remember all things 9/11 today. That awful, tragic event that it was, the innocent lives lost, the families that were forever changed, but also the very best in the human spirit we saw that day. You know, people sacrificing for their fellow man, the first responders running without hesitation right into the mouth of terror, the passengers of Flight 93 coming together and determining that their plane was not going to reach its final destination that the terrorist hijackers intended. They would rather go out on their terms and save lives, even if it meant they would lose their own. And then in the days and weeks and months to follow, seeing and feeling that renewed sense of patriotism and pride in our country that really brought Americans together in a way I had never seen before and I longed to see again. But you know me, I want to hear from the real life experts, the people with actual lived experience on any particular subject, you know, not just another opinion. We all got those. So if you want to know what 9/11 was like to a first responder, someone from the Northeast, then you got to talk to one. You got to go to them directly and let them tell their story. And it just so happens I know a guy. I had the privilege earlier this year of getting to know and recording episode 53 with Jersey Joe Congemi of the Unashamed Bible Study at White's Ferry Road Church in West Monroe, Louisiana, my home state. You remember him. He's the honorary member of the Robertson family and the last guy that Phil Robertson was able to take under his wing and mentor one-on-one. And if you remember, he was a fireman in New Jersey who was serving in and around that fateful day. And he's going to share his firsthand real-life experience with us today. So join me in welcoming back my guy, my brother, and one of the only people to actually want to come back on for a second episode, Jersey Joe Congemi. What is up, brother?
How are you? Good to be here. Good to be back. Good to be back.
I was really excited when we were talking about this months ago, about maybe reuniting again and letting you share about 9/11 and what it was like from your perspective, being a fireman, fire chief in New Jersey and all that stuff. So, but before we get into that, you know, let's make sure and you know, it's not really an elephant in the room, but it's something on my mind. You had a special relationship with Phil. And since our last episode, Phil went home to be with the Lord, just like that. You had your time with him, and now you won't see him again until you get there. How's that affecting you these days?
I mean, it was rough. I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't rough. You know, you lose anyone in your life, it's difficult. Even though you know where they're going,
Mhm.
it's still hard. It's very hard. And I always think back to, one of the sermons that Phil did where I think it was making its way around the internet where he was kind of like doing the in the woods with Phil thing where he was sitting in his boat and he says, "Don't cry for me when I'm gone. Rejoice, be happy, be glad." And he would always say that to me. And that was his plan, right? He was a very smart man. And his plan for me was to teach me as much as he could because in his mind, for some strange reason, he said, "You're going to be the one that's going to be able to baptize them. You're going to get a lot of them, and you're going to bring a lot of them to Jesus. There's just something about you that you're going to bring them, and you're going to baptize them, and that's what I want for you." And he saw that in me, and I didn't see it in me. I didn't. When I first thought about it, I'm like, no, that's not me. That's not what I do. I can't do that. Well, you look at me now and you look at what has transpired. I mean, I'm speaking every week, baptizing them every week. They're still coming. We still get visitors to the class that he used to teach every week, and every week we're baptizing them. So I'm going to continue to do what he charged me to do. But how did I feel? Yeah, I was devastated. It was a rough day. You know, I talk about it a little bit and I get choked up, so it's hard for me to talk about it when I'm preaching. So I try not to. But I got the call the day before he died, and if one of the family members called me and they told me, doctor just seen Phil, and they gave him 24 to 48 hours to live, and you need to come be with him. and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought I was prepared for it. I knew that it was coming. We all knew that it was coming. We knew his health was really declining. And when I heard it, it's still like a dream. You know how like when you hear something sometimes and you got to pinch yourself, like, is this really happening? It was one of those type scenarios. And I dropped everything that I was doing. My wife and I, we got in a truck and went up and seen him. And at that point, he was pretty much just bedridden. He
Yeah.
was sleeping, and he had been sleeping for about 24 hours. And I held his hand, and I read First and Second Timothy to him, and he kind of squeezed my hand a little bit, so I knew he heard me. And I actually talk about this in my book. So for those of you that are wondering, yes, I am writing a book. It's not just about Phil. It's about my life in general. It's about the ups and downs in the fire service, my life in general, what I went through in New Jersey, what brought me here to Louisiana, what drew me to Phil. And then I'm spending a lot of time in the book talking about specifically my relationship with Phil and how he changed my life and how he became that mentor that I was in search for my whole life. But so yeah, I read First and Second Timothy to him that day, and I focused on where we talk about the fight's over. I've done what I had to do. It's now your turn. It's now your turn to pick up the torch and do what I taught you, meaning bring the gospel to others,
Yep.
continue to share, continue to baptize. And I promised on his deathbed that that's what I was going to do. And I ended the conversation with, I got it from here, brother. And he squeezed my hand. I started to cry. And then what stopped me from crying, because I walked out of the room, I had tears streaming down my eyes. The whole
Sure.
family's there. I went up and, of all people, I hugged Jace. Of all people to hug, I hugged him.
Huh.
And he tapped me on the back and said, "It'd be all right. It's good. Be happy today." And I thought about what Phil would say if he knew I was crying. He'd call me a big baby. He'd tell me to rub some dirt on it and move on.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And when I got contacted about writing a book about my story, I thought, what better way to honor Phil than a book and what he did for me and how he changed my life? Obviously, we had to go through the initial trauma of what's involved there, being there for Kay, because that's really what all of us had to do, get
Sure.
together, be there for Kay. And that's what we did. Had a great funeral for him. The brothers got up and spoke. Excellent job. It was more of a celebration of his life. And as Christians, that's what we do, because death is just the beginning. We know this, right? Death is the beginning of that next chapter in your life. And when a loved one dies, they are going to spend the rest of the eternity with the Father. And that's what we rejoice over. And
Yep.
that's why we don't cry as much as you would if you were not a believer and you thought that was it.
Yeah.
But it's not it. And I will see him again someday.
Yeah.
And I look forward to that. And the rest of the time that I have here on this earth, I'm going to continue to honor his legacy and do what he taught me.
Absolutely. Dude, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't thinking of you specifically. When the news came, I'm just
Well,
like
you
you.
texted me, by the way, and that was wonderful. And
Well,
I
yeah.
got a lot of messages that day on Facebook, my phone, and I didn't get to a lot of them, but I got the one from you, and I really appreciated it. It was heartfelt, and it meant a lot to me, and I appreciate it. I really do.
Well, yeah, you're welcome, man. That's whether it's writing an intro or a text or an email, it's going to be from the heart with me. I don't do any of those superficial things. Even in kids' graduation cards, I'm not just putting a 20 in there and saying, good luck in your, no, I put a Bible verse. I say, you know who to look to guide all your steps. You get a message. And I think people need to hear real heartfelt messages from people. today. But the thing that was hitting me was, I'm just another Duck Dynasty fan who had the privilege to talk with you and talk with like Tony and Phyllis. But your case specifically, it's like you show, I know I relate to you because you did the 180 like me. So you and me, not everyone gets to experience that, to live so long without Jesus and have no hope and realize, man, life is kind of hard. But it's like when I watch old reruns of Duck Dynasty, it's like, man, just like that. I can remember what I was doing when that show was on, and now that time is over. You had Phil one on one just building into you, and just for a handful of years, really 5 years was it? And that's it.
Twice a week for 5 years. I spent with him every week, no matter what. We made sure that we had that dinner and Bible session every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And yeah, it meant a lot to me. And when I look back, I'm glad, I'm glad that I did it because it changed my life. It
Sure.
really did.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the man is, I'm telling you, he's a gift to a lot of people, and he affected a lot of people and changed the lives of so many. And it's going to be hard to find someone like him come along in our lifetime.
Right. Right. No, I hear you. I've thought the same thing. Well, you had Billy Graham, then you have this redneck from Louisiana. We've always got pastors and theologians, and then you got average guys like us. Uh, but I do see young people. I see young people stepping up today. There's a couple young people that are just scholars. Wes Huff is making the rounds, and he's talking to people like Joe Rogan or whatever, and the guy knows his Bible, and you know there'll always be, there won't ever be another Phil Robertson, but if we're honest and faithful, man, we're all going to keep carrying the mantle. We will.
And he's in all of us. Every sermon I do, I'm using the tools that he gave me. So
Oh,
he's
I
in,
can hear it. I can hear
you
it when
know,
I watch your videos. I can say, "Oh, yeah, that's Phil right there." So, yeah, I
the family really touched me on my birthday. I usually get a simple present of, something from Duck Commander, a couple of shirts or whatever every year. But this year I got this big box from Duck Commander. It was a Duck Commander box, and it was just a big box. I'm like, I wonder what is this? I said, and I always say, you don't need to give me a gift. What is this? Give me a gift thing. And
yeah.
it was Nan, which is she's Al Robertson's daughter.
Okay.
Her daughter married my son. Her and
Okay.
I are very close. Well, the families are very close, but she gave me the box when I was over there one day seeing Kay on my birthday. And she said, "You can't open this till you get home." And I'm like, "Okay." Not knowing why she would say that, I thought that was the strangest thing ever. I'm like, "Well, why wouldn't you want me to open it to see what it is and you get to see my reaction?"
Yeah.
But I'm like, "Okay, I'll play the game." So I went home and I opened it, and it was a box of a lot of the clothes that he used to wear.
Oh.
And not the real raggedy ones that he never washed.
Okay.
These were like nice newer shirts that he wore maybe once or twice and then hung up in the closet. His favorite jacket that he wore hunting,
Oh
which
man.
every day we went hunting, he would wear this jacket, and his sunglasses, his favorite pair of sunglasses. And that's why she didn't want me to open it, because I just broke out
You'd
into
break
tears.
down. Yeah.
And it was it's I mean, it's a lot of nice clothes, but it's the point is they were his,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted me to have them because I was so close to him. And I tend to wear a shirt every now and then that was his. The sermon I did last week, I was wearing his shirt and his sunglasses. And I'm changing my look too. You notice I got that cowboy hat
I
going on.
have. I've
Yeah,
noticed.
I'm trying to become more recognizable. So I figure if I wear this cowboy hat, everybody will know the Jersey Joe with the cowboy hat. That's the guy. So I'm changing my way up. But yeah, I wear those sunglasses, and I feel like when I put on the shirt or the sunglasses, I feel like he's right there with me.
Okay.
And I use the terms that he used.
Yeah.
I talk about the verses that he spoke about, the core verses in the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. And I do like his famous, "What year is it today?" and they go 2025. What year is it in China? 2025. We count time by him, people. And he'd slam down on the desk. So I try to do that, but I smile when I do that because it reminds me of him because that was him through and through.
Yeah.
It's just, and I got some old videos of him that I will never let go. And I got this one voicemail from him. Everybody said he didn't like to use the phone, and he didn't, but he would call me every once in a while and he would leave me a voicemail when I didn't answer. And there's this one that I kept, which is the greatest thing ever. I mean, when we went through this issue where his phone system that he had at home, he had fiber optic set up that was underground that went directly to a repeater tower because he couldn't get service where he was at.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically a cell phone, but it was tied into his home phone. So Jimmy Red down the street was moving some things around and he actually cut the line. And it was going to be 50 grand to fix this fiber optic line. And I said, no way, forget that. I'll set up the Elon Musk internet
Starling. Yeah.
here and I will put in a VoIP phone and that'll be it. So I did that. And I had this little box set up and I said, Phil, this box has a blue light on it. That means it's connected and your phone is good. I said, if it ever goes red, that means the phone's not working and you got to let me know and I'll fix it so it turns blue again. He leaves me this voicemail. Jersey, that box, the light turned red, and I picked up the phone and tried to call you, and I couldn't call you. But now the light's blue, and I was able to call you. Just wanted to let you know that. All right, click. It's the funniest thing ever. I played it for the family one night when we were all together and they're just dying. I'm like, that's typical Phil, man. Typical
Yeah.
calling to tell me that the phone didn't work, but now it's working. And he's calling me on it because it's working.
Just to let you know.
Oh, but that was Phil. I love that, man.
That's good stuff, man. That's a good trip down memory lane. Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I definitely wanted to start by picking up right there and just kind of paying some respect to Phil and your guys' relationship. But as he would say, kind of, on the unashamed thing, when Jace would get to telling stories, he'd say, "Hey, we're going to get to it today or something. So I guess
Right.
we get to it. Why
Do it.
I asked you to come back on. And so, yeah, everyone knows you're from Jersey. You're from the Northeast. You served in the fire service up there all the way up to fire chief or captain. I don't want to say the wrong word, but
Battalion chief.
battalion chief. I love the uniform, everything.
Yeah, this is my past battalion chief uniform there.
Love
So
it.
wear it whenever you speak to a bunch of firefighters or something so they
Yeah.
know you're not. So they know you're not just lying. Some dude saying, "Oh, I used to be this, or used to be that." Nope, this is it. This is my past chief badge.
Yeah.
These
And I'll
are
insert some pictures. You sent me some really good
rocker here.
pictures.
Yeah, this is all the different commendations and awards that you get for your level of training and what have you. So that'll stay with me for life. I'll probably be buried in something like this.
All right. All right. Well, man, I'm going to just hand you the torch and I'm going to let you go
Yeah.
for a while and tell us what was it like for you being so close to one of the worst days in American history?
Well, when I talk about this, let's definitely be interactive. Ask me some questions and I'll give
Okay.
you some answers the best that I can. But, it was 24 years ago. 24 years ago, 19 evil, demented men who thought that they were doing the Lord's work took the lives of over 2,977 people that day, men, women, and children, and changed the lives of countless thousands and thousands of families forever. Husbands, wives got up and went to work that morning to work in the World Trade Center like it was any other day.
Mhm.
It was a beautiful fall day. I was working for an investment firm at the time, and everybody knows I was in a combination department, which was career firefighters and volunteer firefighters, and we all work together. We all have the same training, and we all work up the ranks. And it's just
Mhm.
firefighter's a firefighter, period. But yeah, I went into work to my regular job that morning, just like it was any other day. And I went into the office. I was standing at the trading desk. And, if you can picture a room where you trade stocks and bonds, it's just a big long desk with a bunch of computer screens and a bunch of TVs up in the ceiling all the way around. And each TV's got something different on it. I went in, I picked up my call sheet for the day, which is the stock that I have to buy or sell, and started reviewing it and happened to look up at the TV and I saw the caption that said, plane hits World Trade Center. And I'm thinking to myself, plane? How does a plane in Manhattan that low to hit the World Trade Center? That's weird. So I'm thinking to myself, this must be like a prop plane or something. But I'm looking at the picture and there's a hole in the building. I'm like, no prop plane's going to be powerful enough to go through that building. I'm like, this makes no sense. So I was concentrating on it, but kind of not, and just looking and doing other things that I had to get done. So I got on the phone. So every morning we would deal with a brokerage for a couple of different brokerage firms when we were going to do the trade. So I was on the phone with a firm in California, and I was talking to one of the traders there, going over the list for the day. And I said, "Hey, did you happen to see the news that a plane hit the World Trade Center?" And he goes, no. He goes, let me turn it on. And he turns it on and he's looking. He goes, wow, that's crazy. And we're talking for a little bit. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see a commercial airliner, a big commercial airliner, live on TV, fly directly into the other building. And I said, whoa. And I just said, did you just see that? I said, that plane just hit, that's a commercial airliner, just hit the other building. I said, we're under attack. That is no accident. He said, my brother's in that building. I gotta go. And he slammed the phone down. And I haven't talked to him since.
Mm.
Um, I don't know what happened to him. I remember his name was Paul. So, that day changed the fire service, emergency services as a whole, and it changed the world. You know, four planes, 344, or excuse me, 343 firefighters, eight EMTs, 23 LAPD officers. We had 37 Port Authority employees. You had 184 at the Pentagon, 40 passengers on Flight 93 that you talked about in Shanksville. And that totaled to 2,977 innocent souls lost their lives. Now, when I look at it from the firefighter standpoint, from the chief standpoint, because at the time I was a deputy chief in a Rivertown department, which was basically meant that we sat on the Delaware River in New Jersey. We were about an hour outside of the city. So while we couldn't see anything from where we were at, we obviously knew what was going on.
Mhm.
When something like that happens, especially in the city, what they do is what's called an all call. So that means every firefighter, every police officer that is off duty, on vacation, whatever, if they are in the city, they are ordered to drop everything they're doing and report to their stations to go back to work. So every firefighter went to the scene. You hear the stories of the firefighter that went running through the Lincoln Tunnel with his gear just to get to the scene. And he unfortunately died in the collapse.
That's his hat up there. That's Tunnel to Towers Foundation, Stephen
There you go. There you go. And it's, you got to understand the mentality of a firefighter, right? We see the danger and we run to it because our mindset is we just need to save lives and we're drawn to the danger.
Yeah.
And every firefighter that day was drawn to the danger. They knew what was going on. I'm sitting back as a fire chief thinking about, okay, from a command standpoint, what kind of chaos are they dealing with? So you got to think about you had two fully loaded jets. These aircraft were scheduled to fly cross country.
Mm-hmm.
And when they took off, so they're taking off with a full complement of fuel,
Yeah.
fully loaded,
Yeah.
right? So now these planes turn around, they get hijacked, the pilots get overtaken, and they turn this plane around and they start heading towards New York City, Lower Manhattan, to hit the World Trade Center. So you now have a fully loaded aircraft full of fuel. When it crashes into that site, into that building, it wipes out everything in its path, right? It basically smooth your means of egress are wiped out. Jet fuel is pouring directly down the elevator shaft. You got fireballs coming up through the elevator shaft, and all of these individuals, these souls, these poor souls that are trapped above it. As a chief, you're thinking to yourself, I'm not going to be able to get to them. Who can I save? What can I do?
Yeah.
So when these firefighters started arriving on scene, their orders were to go inside, start with the evacuation, get out everyone that you can, and let's just do this. We got to get this done. So, the mindset of a firefighter is, yes, there's danger here, but I got to stand above this danger. I got to get these people out of here. So what was happening is my belief is the people that were above that fire floor, they kind of knew what happened. So they knew that there was no way out. So they start breaking these windows. They're throwing office furniture out the windows to break them open. And they're hanging out the windows. They want to be seen. They want to be rescued. They're thinking, rescue me with a helicopter, do something. But the blaze was so intense, the smoke was so bad, you couldn't get a helicopter up there. You couldn't get anything up on the roof to even get them out of the roof and evacuate from the roof. So they start jumping. And what's been documented is the first official firefighter death was from an individual who jumped, who landed on a firefighter on the ground.
Really?
That was the first fatality of a firefighter. So
Mhm.
now you have these firefighters in their minds, they see that their brother was killed from an object, a human being falling. Think about what's going through their head.
Wow.
They're just, this is horrible. They're carrying 40 pounds of turnout gear. They're carrying their high-rise pack, which is a hose lay that's probably about 150 foot of inch and three-quarter hose that they hook up to the standpipe in order to get water up there. They got
Yeah.
to carry all that up there. So they're carrying all that gear. They're carrying their air pack is 20, 30 pounds, 30, 40 pounds of turnout gear. Think about that. Think about carrying 100 pounds in a stairwell, 50, 60, 70 flights. Just think about that.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the people rushing down the stairwell on the other side of you.
Yeah.
No power, chaotic, alarms going off everywhere. It's total pandemonium. It's horrible. Not to mention people jumping out the windows. It's horrible. So they managed to rescue thousands. I mean, those buildings held a lot of people. It was the
Oh, yeah.
hub of our financial scene at that time. So they were able to really get a lot of people out of there before before Tower 2, which is the South Tower, actually collapsed. They had approximately 50 to 55 minutes to do rescues. So it burned for about 55 minutes before it collapsed. When you look at the timing, right? So 8:46 a.m. it was documented that Flight 11 it slammed the North Tower, right?
Hmm.
And the second flight, which was flight 175 at 9:03, that crashed into the South Tower.
Okay.
All right. So now you're looking at about free burning of jet fuel and all of the contents in the fire floors, right? So when you look at an airliner and the size of an airliner, and then you look at the distance between the floors, maybe 15, 20 feet in between
Yeah.
floors, right? So it took out a few floors when it went in there. So I get so aggravated when I hear people say, "Oh, the government brought down those buildings."
Oh, the conspiracy
That's
stuff.
it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. If you
Yeah.
understand building construction, you would know how that building was built and exactly it makes sense exactly what happened there, right? And especially if you watch the collapse in slow motion. So the South Tower was actually hit second, but it was the first to come down. The North Tower actually stayed up a little bit longer. North
Right.
Tower was hit first, right? And it's all based on where the plane went in, the angle that it went in, and what it took out. So when they built these buildings, they built them a way to optimize as much space as you could in the center core of the buildings. So they had the elevator shafts in the core. That's the strongest part. And then the stairwells obviously are pretty strong too. But they built it with what's called exoskeleton construction.
Okay.
So exoskeleton basically means exactly what it is. The skeleton of the building is on the outside, and then they hang the glass and the stuff off of that, right? But the strength of the building is on the outside. Now, there's steel in these buildings. They're steel buildings with an exoskeleton of concrete, right? And that's what pretty much held them up. When the airliner crashed through the building, what it did was it blew off all of the fireproofing insulation that was on that steel on that whole floor in those fire areas of those 2 or 3 floors that were fully engulfed, being accelerated by jet fuel. So you had all the office furniture that was in there. You had all kinds of jet fuel, fully loaded planes with jet fuel, just pouring fuel everywhere. And and it burns hot, real hot. Not hot enough to melt the steel, but it burned hot. But what happens is, as that fire continues to burn and all the fireproofing was blown off of that steel, it weakened the steel. Not
Okay.
to mention, key members of support were taken out from the exoskeleton on both sides, both on the entry and the exit side. So key pieces of support, right, gone. Now you have very, very hot fire, 1200 plus degrees burning jet fuel, right? Um, no insulation on the steel that's left because it's all been blown off, right? So what's happening is, now just think about it, simple physics, right? You have the weight of the upper building, all of those floors above it still intact, all that weight, all that furniture, everything in there, right? And then you had that weakened section.
Yep.
It just basically created a pancake effect when it got to the point where it could no longer withstand the burning, and basically the steel. I won't say melted, because you're not going to melt steel at 1200, 1600 degrees. So it didn't melt the steel, but it weakened it to the point where it couldn't handle the superstructure above it.
Right.
And that's why you had that pancake effect. If you watch it in slow motion, you don't see those above floors pancaking. You see the bulk of those floors push down and collapse where the plane entered. And
Right.
then the pancaking begins because of inertia
Yep.
and gravity. Simply boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. And then the rest of the floors above it just simply collapse as they're coming down because of the power collapsing it. So they had 55 minutes to get him out of there. And when the South Tower came down, the chief, who was in charge at the time, ordered an evacuation of all the firefighters in the other building. He said, because it was evident now that the other building was going to come down.
Mm.
The North Tower or the South Tower came down. It was imminent that, the North Tower was coming down next. So the order was given for them to leave. And I always think about that captain or that lieutenant that you always hear about where they refused that order, right?
Yep.
Because they had a job to do. They took an oath, they swore an oath to defend and save lives. And that's what they did. And that's why they lost their lives.
Yep.
They're heroes. They will always be heroes. And ultimately, we all know what happened. Tower 1 did collapse. It collapsed after about an hour or so of free burning. At 10:28 is when it collapsed. About less than a half hour after Tower 2 collapsed. So they had a little less than a half hour between the two buildings collapsing. My heart dropped when I seen it. You know, I was incredibly depressed watching that. I thought, everyone is gone. There's no way you're going to survive that, because I knew exactly what they were doing. They were in those stairwells, pulling people out, going through floor by floor, the floors below the fire, trying to get these people out, let alone worrying about fighting the fire. They couldn't even get to that point.
Yeah.
They didn't even have a hose line hooked. I couldn't get to that point. It was just strictly search and rescue. That was the mode that they were in. They were doing truck company duties. That's what we call it, truck company. Generally, is going to be search and rescue. Your engine company is going to go in and start putting water on the fire.
Okay.
And they were all basically doing truck operations. They were in there to save lives, search and rescue. And we lost a lot of brave souls that day. And unfortunately, whether good or bad or whatever, we don't honor it like we should. We kind of have grown to forget about it. It's been 24 years now, and it's just not important to people anymore. They'd rather worry about what Trump's doing instead of worrying about this.
Right.
This is important. This is our history, and there's one saying that I always live by. If you do not remember your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yep. Yep.
We've had an open border under Biden all those years. We have a lot of terrorist sleeper cells in this country. I'm not saying there's going to be another 9/11, but there could be another 9/11 type event. And I don't think we're prepared for it. I think we're too busy worrying about other things that just really aren't important.
Yeah.
And we don't spend enough time remembering what these folks did for us and how their deaths were so unnecessary. It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
So after the towers collapsed, I pretty much the market was closed. So I didn't have to worry about work. Market was actually closed for like a few days after that because the President Bush at the time was worried about an entire financial collapse because that was their goal. That was the terrorist goal. They wanted to inflict as much death as they could, but they wanted to do it at the heart of our financial hub, which at the time everything from a computing standpoint for all financial commerce ran through those buildings.
Okay.
So all of the wiring, all of the data connections from Wall Street ran through that hub. Everything was tied in there. So when not to mention, remember those antennas on those buildings?
Hmm.
Those were major cell phone antennas for the entire city. So when that went down too, it dropped your cell. A lot of people couldn't call home, couldn't say, "Hey, I'm
Oh,
okay." I mean, it caused a lot of deep, deep problems that took a while to get going. I was like, I was taking it hard when it happened, and I was talking with my chief at the time through text message. What are we doing? Are we sending an engine company? What are we going to do? We got to get help to these people. Unbeknownst to me at the time, they had pulled in a lot of companies from the Jersey side already.
hmm.
The tunnels were closed. Didn't know this. So I called my wife. I said, get the kids and go home. I said, there's no work being done today. I said, I'm leaving here and I'm going right to the station. I think I'm going to New York. I just don't know yet. I don't know what we're doing yet. So I got back. I went to the station. We got a crew together, what they call mustered up a crew, and we left to head up there. We're on the turnpike, and we got a call from Central Communications, basically saying, "Turn around. You're not going to get in the city. The tunnels are shut down. The bridges are shut down.
Hmm.
No one's getting in or out of the city, so you can't help there. We're going to need help covering the rest of New Jersey." If there's more to this,
Yeah.
because again, we don't know what's going on. We just
Right.
know that there was 4 planes. We know that the other planes were grounded, but we don't know. You're hearing all kinds of rumors now that there's suitcase bombs, suitcase nukes in Philadelphia. And we're right next to Philadelphia. So now we're thinking we don't know what we don't know. So we have to do something. We need to be in a response area to where we can do what we call central coverage, where we're covering multiple areas, multiple response areas, so we can help out anyone who needs it wherever there's a problem. And that went on for days because you would never expect something like this to happen. No one would ever say that those buildings were designed to not come down. The Pentagon is supposed to be the safest building in the world. It's our military hub.
Hmm.
So then you had the Pentagon. You had the plane hit the Pentagon now.
Yep.
And then you had Shanksville, which, those people on that plane, I put myself in their shoes a lot. And I think about the fathers, the mothers, the aunts, the uncles that were on that plane that knew what had happened. I put myself in their shoes. They
Yep.
they knew what happened. They're hearing the news
Yep.
and they realized that they are on a plane that is heading to Washington. They wanted to hit the White House. President wasn't there, but they wanted to hit it because they wanted to be able to say they took out our capital.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they wanted. And the people on that plane said, no, we're not going to let it happen. And they all became heroes that day. And they brought that plane down and they took their own lives to save the lives of countless individuals. Who knows how many they could have killed if that plane were to end up in Washington.
Yeah.
So, again, I go back to this. We need to honor those people and their deaths. But most importantly, we need to learn from it. And we need to make sure that we're prepared if it happens again. Because unfortunately, this is sad to say, but I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when.
Right.
And, you know, that's pretty much the story in a nutshell. I spent the next few days at the station. Didn't go home much. We ate there, slept there, and went on countless calls because it's total. Everybody's freaking out. They see the
Right.
littlest thing, they're freaking out, they're calling. So we're getting all these bogus calls. There's a suitcase here. I don't write a gym bag here,
Hmm.
whatever. Everybody's freaking out. But we got over it. The fire service changed that day. We learned to expect the unexpected even greater now
Yeah.
than, because we've now seen that. When you talk to all these young kids, I mean, 24 years ago, if you're not 28 years old or older, you don't know what I'm talking
Yep.
about.
Yep.
And you think I'm crazy, right? Yeah, that ain't going to happen. It could. It could. So it's my job to educate these young firefighters and just young people in general and keep the memory alive of everyone that lost their lives that day because it was a turning point in this country.
Yeah.
That started the war on terrorism and
Yep.
that brought us into that endless war in Afghanistan and Iraq and all of that,
All that.
which, you know,
Wow.
it, there are evil people out there, and that's what we have to remember that, the evil one is always out there trying to get his way.
Yeah.
And the evil one wants nothing more than to take lives, take innocent lives, and cause pandemonium in your life,
Yeah.
and make you an unbeliever, right? And that brings me to, when you get so many of these unbeliever or non-believers, they say things like, well, if you got a God, why did God allow this to happen? Why did
Sure.
God allow them?
Sure.
Why were they thinking that they were doing it in Allah's name? And it reminds me of Isaiah 41:10, right? So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. Right? These are verses, John 14:6, right?
Hmm.
Where he says, I am the way to truth, right? I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. When you think about these different verses, right, I attribute a lot of them to 9/11 when I speak, right? These are some of the things that I talk about where this was a display of the evil one in the worst way that day.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of evil that he loves to inflict, the kind of pain that he loves to inflict. Um, it was quite almost 3,000 people that lost their lives that day. But like I said in the beginning, it affected
Oh
generations.
yeah.
Generations were affected by this. You know, um, but it did something to our country. It made people proud to be an American, something you really don't see a lot of today.
No.
I remember going through town days after 9/11 and seeing an American flag at just about every door, every house.
Yeah.
I mean, it brought this country together in a sense for the wrong reasons, but it still brought us together. It
Yeah.
it made people proud to be an American. And we have to remember that. We have to hold on to that. And we need to get back to that. We need to be, because we are much stronger when we're all together
Oh yeah.
versus
United.
fractured, right? And we are still fractured to this day. We have a good president. He's making good decisions. He's trying to get things right. He's trying to right the ship, so to speak. But, we got into this position because of a weak president. When you think about the Clinton days, some of the people maybe listening to this are a little too young to remember the Clinton days, but Osama bin Laden tried multiple times. Osama bin Laden, 93, hit the World Trade
Right.
Center.
Yeah.
Car bomb in the parking area
Hmm.
was a flop. Right before Clinton got out as president, you had the bombing of the SS Cole, which was bin Laden, right? And you know, Clinton didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It was we let this guy go on and on and on, and now look what he was able to do.
Look what
Look
he
what he
pulled
was able
off.
to accomplish, right? So, we have evil all around us, and we have to fight evil with good. And sometimes you only do that with a strong military and ready to take action, and sometimes take preemptive action.
Right.
I praise Trump what he did in Iran. It had to be done.
The
It was
nuke
a
site.
bold move. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
bold move. Again, can you imagine? That's why I keep talking about it, right? You look at North Korea, and I know this is supposed to be 9/11, but we get into some of these other things because it feeds into not seeing what's right in front of your face, right?
Hmm.
North Korea, we've allowed them to build these nukes. They have multiple nukes now, and they got ICBMs that can reach this country. Sure, hopefully we can shoot them down before they get us, but they still got them.
Right.
They can smuggle a nuclear bomb the size of a suitcase into New York City. It can happen. We can have another 9/11 scenario. And believe me, these sleeper cells are
Right.
just waiting for the right time. So, how do we deal with it, right? What do? We accept Jesus and we look to Jesus for guidance. That's what we do.
Absolutely.
We praise him and we ask him to give us strength because there's going to be evil.
Yep.
I talk about that all the time in my sermons. You know, being a follower is not easy. It never says anywhere, it doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that if you follow Jesus, your life will be rosy. No, no.
Yeah.
Your life will be just like it would be if you weren't, except having Jesus on your side gives you the strength to get over things. And that's why we need him in our life. And we need to honor him. We need to honor the people that lost their lives. You know,
I
every
agree.
one of those lives are important.
I agree 100%. We, you made so many good statements in there. Just, I've too noticed, yeah, if we don't teach the younger generation about what happened, educate them about what happened, yeah, we're doomed to repeat things. Some of the best stuff I ever heard was like, the people, like you say, that are always out there waiting for a moment to do evil, you know, how many attempts of those are foiled that we never even hear about? They only got to get it right once.
That's right.
We can stop 99 times, but if we let it get off once, it causes chaos, it causes harm. When I talk to people who say that, they say, Bubba, you're God. How could he allow something like that to happen? I tell them, kind of the same thing you said. God never promised to take away all the evil. This is a fallen world, and we're going to deal with that until he makes it all right. And I said, you want to be on the right side of this thing when there's going to come a day where there is no sin, where there is no pain, suffering, death. And I want you there with me, is what I tell them. There's going to come a day where there isn't any of that.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know you're going to be there? I know I'm going to be there. I know Jersey Joe's going to be there. I know Phil's going to be there. You can know you're going to be there. So I tell them that day's coming where that place exists. It exists now, and the kingdom is here in spirit, but he's going to make it all right one day when we don't have to deal with that anymore. This is not that time, but this is the time we have to choose him. Just to kind of put it in perspective for me and my wife were young, like college age kids at the time. And like you said, or here's how I'll relate it. We just did an episode with a pastor in Chicago. Great guy, doing great things, about to walk across the entire country. If
Yeah, I saw that podcast. He
oh,
seemed
you
like a
guys,
really great guy. Yeah.
oh man, he is
The
doing.
sermons on the roof or something.
Yeah, he went
Yeah,
300
yeah.
and some nights on the roof to raise funds to put up a center in the south side of Chicago to say, government, we're not going to wait for you to help. We're going to help give kids and families and troubled people the education and the skills needed for them to take care of themselves. And so he's putting up this center to do that. And so, yeah, he starts this Walk Across America campaign next month. Man, if the Robertsons and you guys got behind that, because you can walk with him for 12 miles whenever he's coming through Louisiana, and you just walk with them, sponsor a mile, whatever you got to do. And he's about bringing revival back, family, faith, biblical values, all that. And it's really good stuff. But he just took a mission trip to Zimbabwe. And he said they were planning a coup as they were getting ready to leave because that country, the whole,
Oh, yeah.
all the stuff with the farm ground and just all the different things going on in government there. And so they got out just in the nick of time. There were runs on the gas station. You could see, oh yeah,
Wow.
something was about to go down. And I said, how did you explain that to your youth group who knows nothing but stability? And then all of a sudden you give them a glimpse of what it looks like to live in a place where stability is not certain. It's not
Sure.
certain here in the United States, which is kind
That's
of what
true.
you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could all crumble at a minute, at a moment. And then what are you left with? You and me know, man,
Oh,
if you got Jesus, you still got everything.
that's right.
And those of us who were alive at 9/11, we realized, I think we're under attack. And as the hours and minutes went by and you realized it wasn't, you knew it had to have been an accident. It had, and then you see the second one. And then you hear, and then you realize we, the United States, the great United States, we just got attacked. We got our front teeth knocked out, is what I heard some people reference the Twin Towers to. They knocked out the front teeth of the United States. That couldn't have happened. Yeah, it happened. We're not promised anything.
No,
So,
nope,
man, yeah. If,
nope.
if you don't have a foundation to stand on, what do you do when times get bad? You just do it on your own. You in episode 53, you shared what your personal life was, how that mindset was getting you, where it was getting you, and it was leading you health wise, not in a good direction. You were crumbling physically, spiritually, maritally, everything.
Yeah.
Thing turned it around for you, and so that's that is our recommendation to other people for sure,
I
man.
mean, it's you focus focus on, and this is what Phil told me a long time ago. Focus on the things that you can change.
Mm,
That's all you got to do.
yeah,
Focus on the things that you can change. There's going to be things that happen to you in your life that you can't change.
yeah,
So you need to focus on those things that you have control over. And what better way to do that than accept Jesus and follow his teachings and focus your life on him,
yeah,
because he's going to give you the tools that you need to overcome anything.
yeah.
And that was the hardest thing for me to understand in the beginning. But once I truly accepted Jesus and what he could do for me, it completely changed my life.
Hmm.
I say it all the time, I don't know much about the Bible. I don't know much about God, but what I do know changed my life. And that's all that matters. It's that simple. That is all that matters to me.
I love that. I'm gonna clip that. That one's gonna be one of our little reels for this episode right there. I don't know much, but I know Jesus, and it changed everything. I like that. That's what I do know changed everything. That's good.
Yep.
Another thing I like to tell people when they start looking at the world today, because, that's part of why I started the podcast, all the craziness going on and people not being able to communicate about issues and me wanting to get the gospel out there and show them a biblical worldview, is they would just say, well, the world's so messed up, but your God's in control of it all, right? And, I would just say, hey, God didn't do all this. When you understand God, he's got a will and his will be accomplished, but he also has a permissive will. He allows the fallen world. He allows consequences. He allows us to suffer. Sometimes there's healings, yes. Sometimes there's miracles, yes. Well, why doesn't he do it all the time? And I say that's what heaven, that's what the new heaven, the new earth is going to look like. But
That's right.
God didn't do this. Sin did this.
That's
Okay.
absolutely right.
And that's just the
Absolutely.
core, one of the core principles of the Bible. Man, when you get into it and you understand sin just infected the entire human race, and we're going to deal with it. And so that's kind of one way. I've been teaching my kids a little bit. I was like, know what to say when your friends have questions. Know when they bring up arguments, know biblically how to respond to that.
That's right.
Be prepared to do that. You don't,
I mean, Jesus came to this earth because of sin, right?
right.
That's why Jesus came when he came. 2025 years ago, born of a virgin, came because of the world's sins. And then he died on that cross and took on the sin of every single soul in this world.
Yeah.
That's why he was here. And that's why he's coming back again, because of sin. He's going
Yeah.
to come back again because of that. And, you talked about, Jesus didn't do this and this was done by sin and this was done by human beings, right? It's a little thing that I like to call free will. You see, God created the perfect image of himself when he created us. We were all created in the image of God.
Right.
But he gave us this one little thing called free will. That's the ability for you to think for yourself, do what you want, believe what you want. So he gives you the ability to believe in him or not.
Yep.
It's
To
called
choose him.
free will. And if you choose the free will to commit evil, you're polluted by the evil one, you're evil. You're
Right.
going to be evil. You use that free will to accept Jesus and what he did for you, you're going to spend eternity with the Father and your life is going to be great.
Yeah.
absolutely great, you know? So, I mean, we're going to have this discussion forever, right? There's always going to be non-believers out there that we need to convince. And it is our job as followers and believers to do our best to bring them to the Lord. And I remember what Phil would always say to me. He said, Jersey, we can't help them all.
Yeah.
You can't help them all. You can put it out there, you help the ones that want it,
Yeah.
and here's the biggest thing, right? Here's the biggest thing that you can do that I learned from him, and I talk about it in the book, right? It's your job, my job, your job to be the type of person that someone looks at and says, "Wow, I want to be like that." These guys had a hour-long conversation and not one curse word. They were able to get their point across without one negative curse word. That's amazing.
Coming from a couple
They're,
of guys who used to curse a
oh,
lot.
yeah. I mean, heck, around this time, it's a Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock. My time, I'd have a beer in me
We're
already.
cutting loose. Yeah.
I mean, come on, but we don't need to do that
No. No.
because I found the way that I can be just as happy without doing any of that. I can get my
Yeah.
point across just as easily.
Yeah.
But I'm a role model because that's what Phil taught me to be. Phil taught me to be the leader in my family
Yep.
that sets the tone,
Yep.
that praises God, loves God first, and teaches his children and his family how you need to conduct yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's what Phil was for me. Phil set the example for me to follow.
Yep.
And now I repay him by doing the same thing to others. And that's what we have to do.
I love it. I love it. That brings up another thing. I'm hearing all the naysayers, that people when I hear people, they say, "Oh, you want the woman barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen or whatever, the men are
No,
the leader and all this stuff." And it's like, you know what you just said right there. That burden is on us as the husbands and the fathers to lead our houses well. The Our actions should make our wives and children want to follow us. It's not that they
right.
have to
That's
submit
right.
and they're under our oppression. No, if we're godly men, they're going to want what we got. They're going to want to follow our lead. I say it all the time, guys. The Bible, when you really read it and you see it lived out in real life, it makes perfect sense
Sure it
compared to
does.
anything else out there. Man.
Sure it does. It tells us to love God, right? Love
Yep.
God first and love your wife as God loved the church.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So if I wanted my wife barefoot and pregnant, would I love her like I love the church? I would just want her home pumping out babies.
Yeah.
And then what happens after she's done pumping out babies? Then what?
Well, yeah.
You get in your older years like I am now, we're done with that. We're in our later years now. Our kids are raised. They're all moving out and doing their own things, and it's just us. And I have the best life ever. I mean, I love my wife to death, but I love Jesus more.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's
Yep.
what I'm supposed to do.
That's right. That's
What
right.
does
That's
it
how it
mean
works.
though? It means I'm going to love my wife just like God loved the church.
Christ loved the church.
I mean,
Yep.
it's that simple,
That's it.
and that's what I'm going to do. Before we get off the topic, I usually when I do the 9/11 speaks, so in the fire service, we have a prayer. It's called the fireman's prayer.
Oh yeah.
We say it whenever we have a gathering. We say it, unfortunately, whenever there's a funeral, and we usually have the chaplain recite it. And it's just something that I would like to get on the air today, in remembrance of all of the firefighters and everyone, not just the fire, everyone who lost their life on 9/11, 2001. We have not forgotten you. We will never forget you. And for you, I will recite this fireman's prayer. When I am called to duty, God, wherever flames may rage, give me strength to save some life, whatever be its age. Help me embrace a little child before it's too late, or save an older person from the horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert and hear the weakest shout, and quickly and effectively to put the fire out. I want to fill my calling to give the best in me, to guard my every neighbor and protect his property. And if it's according to your will, I must answer death's call. Bless with your protecting hand my family, one and all. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I get the chills whenever I read that and whenever I hear it because I've heard it so many times, both in good and in bad. Um, as I'm going through writing the book, and actually before we did this recording today, I was working on a section of the book where I talk about a line of duty loss that we had in my department, where we lost a lieutenant who had a massive heart attack after shift and answered his last call. And it was a line of duty death. And I talk about it in the book, and I talk about how, it's a it's a very sad time for a firefighter. We are a brotherhood. We're brothers and sisters in arms, and we go out there to do a job, and we develop a very close knit, tight relationship.
Mhm.
And whenever we lose one of our own, it's as if we lost someone from our family, a brother or a sister. So it's very hard. And I got that on my mind today because I was thinking about Lieutenant Chris Hunter, who we lost many years ago. It's been 10 years now, I think. And it was 2014, so it was 10 years ago. And he's a young man. He was in his, I think he was 46 or 47 when he passed. He left behind a wife and two young children. He's a good friend of mine. And, we miss him. We think about him every day. We think about all of the lost firefighters and sisters that we've lost. And, we keep moving on. That's how we honor them. We remember them. We
Yeah,
remember the sacrifices that they made for the better,
sure.
and yeah, that's how we get through it.
Yeah.
So this prayer means a lot to me. It really does because it hits home.
Yeah, I don't know as if I've ever heard it read publicly at like a funeral or anything like that
It's
for a
almost
fireman.
a
Yeah,
poem prayer, right? And
yeah.
it was written, oh my goodness, uh, a long time ago. I'm not even going to
Okay.
venture to say. Someone would have to Google it because I'm sure if I if I give a how long ago, someone will put in the comments, "Oh no, he's wrong.
Call
He's
you out.
wrong."
I
But
love it. I
I'll
love
just
what it
say it's been
says.
around a long time because it encompasses what we do,
Yeah.
right? What the fireman's calling is, And they say fireman. It's times have changed. It's not a fireman. It's firefighter,
First
uh,
responder, everything.
first responder because, we have opened it up. We have a lot of good women who are firefighters, which are very good at it.
Yeah.
It's a true calling. You
Yeah.
have to really want to do it in order to, because it's hard. It's not easy.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
No, I can see and feel, haven't you read it? Like the sacrifice theme is just oozing out of it. And that's what's running through my mind right now is okay, you and me, you gave your 9/11 perspective, and we relive that, and we do need to never forget. And we've obviously, in the beginning, we remembered really well and we all came together. But as the years go by, what you're saying is definitely true. We're remembering less and less. But that theme of sacrifice, of just selfless sacrifice, that runs through my mind quite a bit. And I think of the people, okay, that say, Bubba and Joe, they got a little preachy there for a while. What what about the guys that aren't into that stuff? So here's what I'm thinking. If if you're a man, and I don't want to say just a man, a woman too, I guess, but especially if you're a man, whether you're a husband or a father or not, but just a man, and I hope you agree with me, Joe. We like you said, we all think about Flight 93, what it took for them to stand up and do what they did. Put yourself in their shoes. And I've thought of that. So I'm glad to hear you say you've actually thought, or we have dreams sometimes. What do we do? Do we fight or flight? Do we respond? Do we protect our family and run? What do we do? Oh man. And I just think of the verse right there. No greater love has this than a man lay down his life for his friend, for his brother, for his neighbor, whatever it may be. And that spirit that God put in us is something you can't explain. There's no logic or reason behind it other than, like you said, we're created in the image of God. He gives those people that ability to do that. And for that, I am forever grateful for fire service, first responders, military, law enforcement, all of it, because I don't want to live in a country without it. Not one bit. I love knowing there's people that have that sacrificial heart, mindset, attitude,
Right.
whatever you want to call it, that are willing to protect me and mine at all costs. So yeah, I will never forget. I'll always honor it.
Yeah, when I think about those people on that flight 93, it gives me peace to know that they're in a better place.
Mhm.
There's no doubt in my mind that the Lord took special exception in that case. Maybe one of them, two of them may not have been baptized or been believers, but I think in a situation like that, we all go for judgment, right?
Yeah.
We know that, right? And we know that it clearly we clearly hear it in the Bible that you don't reach the Father unless it's through Jesus, right? We
Yep.
talked about
Yep.
that, talk about baptism all the time, right? But I think in a situation like that where it gives me peace to think that when those people, if they were not believers, they had their judgment, they were given that we're going to give you a pass. You did the right thing here. You sacrificed your life for others. You laid your life down for others. You acted in God's honor. You saved lives. We're going to give you a pass. So I like to think that, um, but not saying that, everything we talk about with baptism and everything else, how, you need to be baptized, you need to be reborn and all that. I think there are special exceptions where something like that happens and he sees them because we all go to
Okay.
judgment, whether you've been baptized or not, you all go to judgment.
Yeah.
I talk about the guy all the time that says, I'm a good person. I don't go to church. I don't believe in God. I don't do any of this. Or maybe, there might be a God, but I'm not going crazy. But I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to help my neighbor, love my neighbor. I'm going to do everything I'm told. I'll be very good.
Ain't
And
enough.
that's it. And then when I tell that person, when you die, you're going to go to the Father, and the Father's going to say, oh, yeah, you were a great guy. That's right. You didn't do anything evil. You were good. You were great. But guess what? I don't know you.
Yeah.
I don't know you because you didn't accept Jesus, right? So you're going to have that judgment day. All of us, it will come for all of us.
Yeah.
So when I think back to 93 in that situation, I think their judgment day probably went a little better than others that were not believers that went through natural causes.
Yeah.
Just my thoughts there. I like to think that,
Yeah.
because we have a loving, forgiving God, and I
We do.
think
The
that's going to be a-okay.
the best way I understood it was, judgment seats. And when you come, the thief on the cross next to Jesus, one had it all twisted and one got it right just in the
You're
nick
right,
of
and he
time.
wasn't baptized either. But Jesus said you're going to spend
Yeah.
eternity with me.
He
That's
saw his
right.
heart. His heart,
Yep.
he was repentant and he acknowledged Jesus as God. And that's all you got to do. If that's all you got time for sure. Um, those of us who die in our sin, like you said, having not accepted Jesus, we face those people will face a judgment seat for their sin. The moment you and me put our faith in Jesus, he is he took care of our sin for us on the cross, and we're now covered by his blood. We don't
That's right.
face that judgment. We face a different judgment seat when you read the Bible that says we're going to be judged on what did we do from that moment forward with the
That's right.
time, talents, abilities that he gave us to go out and do exactly what Jesus said. Go, preach the gospel, make disciples, and do
You
what?
got it. That's
What are
right.
you doing?
Baptize
Baptize them, baby.
nations.
Baptize them. Those three things. How
Yep.
close are we to those three things from the moment
That's
we
right.
accept Jesus on, man? That's what we're going to be judged on.
Oh yeah.
And I look
Oh yeah.
forward to that. I know we all going to come up short, but still,
We're all
they say
sinners, brother, and
rewards.
we're always going to be sinners. You know that. There's nothing
Right.
we're going to do that's going to change that.
That's right. I hear we are then rewarded with crowns and jewels, and we ain't even going to want to hang on to them. We're going to be in such awe. We're going to throw them at his feet, man. We're going to
That's
cast our
right.
crowns at the feet of Jesus. So I want to have a lot to give him, as
You
do
got
you.
it.
So,
You got it, man.
man, okay. Joe, I got to thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, it was fun. I always have a good time with you, even though this
I
is a
know. I
sad
know we
subject,
do.
but
That's okay. That's real life, man. We want to do
Yeah.
9/11, pay some respects and honor and get your perspective, and then we got a little off into family and Jesus, and that's all good stuff. So if somebody looks down on us for that, I guess they're listening to the wrong podcast. But
Yeah, you
we're
got it.
glad you listen, guys. So,
Yeah.
but no, I do appreciate your service and your perspective as a first responder and being up in the Northeast around that time and just wanting to come back on and share with our audience. So where can people connect with you? Maybe they didn't catch the first episode. Where can they follow you and stay up to date with the upcoming book and with
You
Unashamed
got it.
Bible Study and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's www.jerseyjoecongemi.com is the best way to find me, or just Google Jersey Joe Congemi. And if you don't know how to spell Congemi, just Google Jersey Joe Duck Dynasty, and you will find me there. And it got links to all my social media and all that stuff. We do the Unashamed podcast, or yeah, we'll call it the podcast. We do the Unashamed Bible Study and put it out on Apple Podcast
Okay.
every week. And then we take snippets from the actual sermon and put it in video form and go ahead and put them out as shorts on my YouTube channel. So there's always content out there. There's a way on the website to, reach out and engage. If you're having a problem and you want to talk about it, there's a way to talk to me through the website to get you some counseling and what have you. We're here to help. We're here to offer, the right moves to make. Ultimately, our goal is to bring everyone to Jesus, and that's why we're doing what we do.
Amen. Amen. I love it. I love it. To my audience, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with family and friends. Go follow Joe. Check out his content. It is good stuff. You want to see him wearing that cowboy hat he was talking about? He don't always look this good in this nice uniform. Trust me. He's just like one of us. Go check him out. It's some really good studies, some good lessons he puts out there. He's just trying to do something good. So just like us, we're trying to do something good, something encouraging, but yet challenging and entertaining all at the same time. And we're growing every day. So please, you know the drill. Like, follow, subscribe, and share. Share if you liked it wherever you listen or watch podcasts. Big thing right now, 5-star rating on Spotify. Spotify is a killer, man. It is hard to grow on Spotify. You want some funny stuff? You want to see these little reels that Joe is talking about? I'll clip this episode up real nice. You want to follow our Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. There'll be all kinds of that stuff on there. If you got questions, comments, ideas, you want some What Is Up merch, we're not getting rich over here. We're just trying to get some advertising. Email me, whatisuppodcast@gmail.com. But like Joe said there a minute ago, to get serious, if you need help with something or you want to talk deeper about something you heard here today, reach out to either of us. We will respond and help any way we can. That we honestly feel that is what God is wanting us to do right now. So we are here for you. Just reach out. We are here. But just know both of us are going to point you in the same direction, up. Up. That's what is up. A real, personal, life-saving, changing relationship with Jesus is the only thing that helped us. It's the only thing. So that's right where we're going to tell you to begin. And then you start digging into the Word of God, and He speaks truth like nothing else you'll find in this world today. I promise you. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. We're not promised tomorrow like we covered in this episode. It could all be gone in a minute, just like that. Our next breath isn't even guaranteed. So if something is stirring in your heart right now, if Joe touched a nerve and God is putting something on your heart and you're not sure, if it all ends at a moment's notice and you don't know where you're going to go, take this moment, make it right now that you choose Jesus. Right now. If you need help with that, reach out to either one of us. You won't regret it. I promise you. Thank you guys so much for listening. Your support means a lot to me and my family. So for me and my guest, Jersey Joe, Lord willing, we'll talk to you on the next one.
Thanks a lot, Bubba. Totally enjoyed it. And for all the listeners out there, just remember, keep the faith.
Keep the faith. Love it. Good job, man. It was good.